What is going on, everybody? This is Eric, the one and only Barrier Collector, and today I'm doing a special video. I am doing a 2-in-1 game review of a favorite series of video games of mine for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and that is the Star Tropics series. Star Tropics and Star Tropics II Zoda's Revenge, or much rather like that. Now, these two games are part of a series of very popular video games that came out back in the Nintendo era, but this one came out back in 1990 and this one came out back in 1994. And I will go and kind of cover each game individually, and I'll begin with Star Tropics. So, as mentioned before, actually both games were created by the creator of Punch-Out!, Mr. Takeda-san, and they were part of his projects. He made these two games. Now, beginning with Star Tropics, this game, like I said, came out in 1990, and you start as Mike Jones. I always think of the rapper Mike Jones, but anyways, all jokes aside, you control Mike Jones, who's out to see his uncle, Dr. Stephen Jones, who is doing research on an island in the Pacific, I believe, and upon arrival of the island, he discovers that his uncle is missing. So the chief of the island gives him a special yo-yo, and he sets out to discover what happened to his uncle. And he goes to different islands and whatnot in a submarine called the Navcom and Subsea, I believe. And he goes to different islands to find clues of the whereabouts of his uncle. Very fun game for this one, but yeah. And then in part 2, Star Tropics II Zoda's Revenge, after the events of Star Tropics 1, I'm going to be giving a little bit of, so if you guys haven't played this game, I'm sorry, there's going to be a little bit of spoilers, but I'll try to make it as not to spoil a lot of the games. So basically in part 2, after the events of part 1, after finding his uncle, there's this alien princess that calls upon Mike again, that the evil bad guy of the series is called Zoda. Zoda has cloned himself and is looking for these missing pieces, like they're Tetris pieces, but they call them the tetrads. And so he goes out on a quest in time to go looking for the missing pieces, because Zoda's clones are looking for those pieces as well. And he goes to different events in time, like the cave, like the Stone Age or the Ice Age. He goes to medieval and whatnot, different time areas. Very interesting as a time travel game. Both games play exactly very similar. They're very reminiscent to the original Legend of Zelda, but a little bit more action oriented. In this one, the yo-yo is your main weapon, whereas in this one, you find weapons throughout the time period. For example, in the Stone Age, you'll be able to use the axe and fire, and it's a little different. You don't use a yo-yo anymore, but nonetheless, they both play very similar. This one made it a little bit better on the controls, because originally this one, the controls were a little bit more stiff. But nonetheless, they're very fun games to play. One of the things about these two games is that this one in particular is kind of a special piece. As of the making of this video, this game goes for really cheap. You can even find it in the Nintendo Mini. I don't know if this one's part of the Nintendo SNES, not the SNES, the NES Mini, but you could get this one in the NES Mini, as well as the Nintendo Switch NES games that you buy that extra pack, where you can pay the membership and play old school NES games. This one's available, whereas this one is still not available. Pretty sure it'll be, sooner or later it's going to be available. But what makes this one special is that this is the second to the last game that came out in North America, the last being Warriors Woods, But all in all, of course, the very last video game for Nintendo was Adventure Island 4, but in the States, this one was the second to the last. Wario's Woods was the last one. However, this was the very last Nintendo game that was not carried over to the SNES. So you can say this is the very last North American game released for the NES in a way. Another thing about these two games was that they never came out in Japan. They were exclusive to North America and Europe. So there's no Japanese games, believe it or not. Very interesting for being an actual Nintendo game, being Nintendo games. So they're very special, you know. So very, very special games indeed. Now, as far as pricing for the game, this one goes a little cheaper. You can find a copy of this loose on eBay and whatnot as of the making of this video for really cheap. Whereas this one's a little bit more pricey. This one goes for about 10 to 13 bucks on average, while this one goes to about $20, 20 to 25 bucks. A little bit more expensive, probably given the fact that it's one of the last games for the Nintendo. But all in all, both games are great, really fun games. My only gripe was that although throughout the era of the different consoles from Nintendo, they never made a trilogy. They never made a third one. It would have been great to see this on the Super Nintendo, how they would have made this on the Super Nintendo. But it's like the series died down. It just like never really resurfaced, and I'm hoping that Nintendo comes up with a part 3 or another one or a remake, kind of like what they did with Link's Awakening, for example. It would be awesome, especially this one. Out of both these games, this one's more like the funnest one, in my opinion. They're both fun, but I feel this one right here is much funner than this one, being that it's a totally unique experience where you're going on islands and using a submarine. This one was also infamous because if you guys had the original instruction manual for this one, you would have dipped it in the water. You would have dipped the manual in water, one of the pages, and it would have revealed the code that you needed later in the game. I believe it would be like in chapter 3, chapter 4. I don't know, somewhere in the mid chapters, you would need to input a code which you cannot resume without that code. Now, if you guys want the code, you guys can just Google it. It's out there. But this was notorious at the time because a lot of people, if you didn't have the manual for this game at the time, then you wouldn't know what the heck to do when you reach that point. But all in all, I never had the manual, but I don't know if I had a complete copy of this one. I know I had a complete copy of this one because when this one came out, I remember buying this game originally complete at Woolworths for really cheap. They were going for super cheap. This one, Swamp Thing and Bram Stoker's Dracula, those games were going for about $5 or $6 by that time at Woolworths, which was around the end, the last, right before the console, the NES, was obsolete. But all in all, I prefer this one, but both games are fun. Give them a try. I hope Nintendo makes a remake or a brand new game to the series. It's highly, it deserves it. Kind of like Kid Icarus, where they made one until they made the 3DS, but I played the 3DS Kid Icarus, and I think that's kind of whack. I'm sorry for those of you who like it. I don't like it. I played it already on the 3DS. It doesn't it doesn't come up to par with the Game Boy version and the NES version of Kid Icarus. And hopefully, if they do make a remake, they keep the similar elements, or if they make a new version of the game, they make it unique, special to how it was. The other thing is that I know that Mr. Takeda, hopefully I'm not butchering his name, he just recently, from what I researched earlier, the last while that I researched the games, I believe he just retired from Nintendo, or retired a little while ago, so which makes it even harder that they're going to be making another game in the series, but never say never, Hopefully they do. But anyways, I will leave you guys with gameplay of each game. I am very happy to do this video. This is one of the projects that I wanted to bring out a long time, because I think these two games deserve to be mentioned. They're very, very special, even though they're very common games. I know that a lot of you guys out there have probably heard of these two games. They deserve to be mentioned because these are very, very fun games. If you guys haven't played them or have heard them and never picked them up, I highly recommend them. You guys won't be sorry. It's a very fun story. But anyways, this has been Eric the Bear Collector. Enjoy the gameplay of both games. Sorry that the video is a little long. I know I'll try to put a timestamp on the below on the description, but thank you so much, you guys, for watching. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. Anyways, this has been Eric the Bear Collector. Peace out.